Greetings. Welcome to my presentation about the Ending Veteran Homelessness Initiative review. So I chose this topic because I myself am a veteran, and I understand that veteran homelessness has been an issue the past almost for decades now, actually. But I thought this review would shed some light on how well actually we are trending in hoping to end veteran homelessness. So with that, let's kick things off. So some background. What is the existing problem, and why is it an important issue to study? So homelessness is a persistent and growing problem, not only for veterans but for a large population throughout the U.S. And the role of health systems actually play a big role, um, because there's a lot of social determinants of health, and understanding what those determinants are will help us as to understand how a person ends up becoming homeless because of maybe not they don't have access to care, and their healthcare bills got way too expensive and they couldn't afford basic housing at that point. So there's just a lot of factors in how homelessness and our healthcare system plays a role in someone becoming homeless. Objectives. So the objective of this study was to compare homelessness among veterans with that in the general population during a 16-year period before and after implementation of the Ending Veteran Homelessness Initiative. Population. What is the population here that the author seeks to generalize their findings? It's homeless U.S. veterans after the implementation of the Ending Veteran Homelessness Initiative, which actually began around 2007 all the way up until 2022, when this study was conducted. The strategic approach. So here's the a little kind of breakdown that I found from the article. Starting with the strategy, they got different here, or two different organizations that initiated the approach, and developed the core elements, with the housing first as a systems response. Because before the housing first as a system response, it was more so trying to get to the root of a person and why they're homeless, like mental health services and substance abuse, stuff like that. They were trying to tackle stuff like that first before giving someone housing opportunity. So with this approach, the housing first was the first response. Key stakeholders, you got the VA, civic leaders, and community partnerships. So you kind of got like the federal and all the way down to the lower levels. Program initiatives, you got case management in there, prevention, and then at the bottom is the permanent support housing. Type of study. So the type of study was a cohort study. It was by the time the point in time count data was done in 2022, there were 33,129 veterans identified, after beginning the count in 2007. Recruiting strategies is a mixed methods analysis looking at 16 years of data, the first 3 years being baseline data and the next 13 being programmatic years, tracking housing placement, community grants, and PIT data that were contextualized to interview responses from VA leadership involved in implementing the Ending Veteran Homelessness Initiative. Inclusion criteria. Inclusion criteria included the U.S. veterans and VA programs aimed at deterring veteran homelessness. Exclusion criteria, they didn't go after specific general homeless populations or the general population homelessness programs aimed at deterring homelessness for the general public. Variables between the groups, while the cohort study revolved around homeless veterans and VA programs geared towards helping them, they were compared to the general total population experiencing homelessness. Statistical analysis correlated the study correlated the PIT data for the general population and veterans with programmatic data to describe differential effects of the ending veterans homelessness initiative in the veteran cohort. The next one, to determine the 95% confidence interval for the annual PIT counts, they used the formula from the normal approximation, which allows for the use of population proportions to find an approximate distribution when the sample does not have the true population distribution. Results. So veteran homelessness actually decreased by 55.3% compared with the 88.6 for the general population. The portions of veterans in this cohort also declined from 11.6% to 5.3%. So this graph is what was also in the article that I found. Either there in the green kind of plotted points, you have the veterans experience homelessness, and the yellow was the total population experiencing homelessness. You can see there the veteran homelessness in the green. There was a pretty large decline in the percentage of the PIT counts starting in 2010. And then with the yellow, it kind of steadily stayed up on the negative 10% there on the graph, and or kind of arranged within that space. But yeah, the veterans experiencing homelessness definitely decreased a lot. So some conclusions. These findings suggest an important role for health systems in addressing complex social determinants of health. While some conditions unique to the VHA facilitated the change in homelessness, lessons learned from here are applicable to other health systems. And I agree with their conclusions. I would say I agree with their conclusions because the study was completed over such a long period of time, especially when you consider different parties in government that are in charge, and it consistently displayed trends towards less U.S. veteran homelessness. Some observed biases. Obviously, the most obvious one was tracking data mainly concerned with homeless U.S. veterans. Selection bias with this, tracking data of veterans that are actively receiving VA services. So there's a flip side to that, which I'll cover in some of the other findings that I found. Non-considerations that may have impacted the findings. Measurement bias. There's different definitions of some people of what someone may consider homelessness. For example, such as like temporary housing, someone like that's just staying somewhere but doesn't have their own permanent housing, or someone that's couch surfing. So you may have a pool of people like that may actually contribute to the number of people that are homeless. So there needs to be make sure that there's a clear definition of what they consider homeless in their study. Geographical bias, regions that may be heavily impacted by U.S. veteran homelessness, that can play a role. Some applicable findings. Yes, however, the data may be skewed by reporting bias. So this was kind of what I was talking about 2 slides earlier about the study not mentioning the possibility of homeless veterans that are not utilizing VA services versus the ones that are. So there may be a pool of veterans out there that may actually be homeless, but they don't use or VA or government resources, so they're not tracked as actively. And the or another ideal study design for this study I would recommend would be a cross-sector collaboration. With this, you can analyze housing programs from one region to another, and when you do that, you're able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of a program, and or if there are other social determinants of health that play a role in homelessness. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.